All right, so we're gonna get started then, and we're this morning, like the challenge that I had this week, and I mentioned this on the first day, but the challenge I've had this week is the order that we've taught the classes in is not the order the way we did it this week is not the way I like to do it. Because I feel like, for me at least, I feel like there's a flow I like to go with. And, but because Jason's off today and tomorrow, and so because of that and a few other appointments and stuff that either he or I had, we had to line it up the way we did. And it's fine, you're still getting the same information, but part of why I say that is just because I feel like today, especially this lead generation part, like I feel like I always want more time. So I say that with the idea being of we may continue on lead generation after lunch because I'm probably not going to get through everything that I want to get through this morning. So anyway, so no questions, I guess, from yesterday or any of the days or anything?
Tomorrow, Rose, are you going to still do what you said you were going in the morning?
Yes, at 3 o'clock
What time?
tomorrow. 3 o'clock tomorrow.
3 o'clock?
Yes, I'll do Moxie Engage. So yes, that's the plan.
Well, you were saying that to do the neighborhood news, you remember that?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so is that the one at 3 o'clock?
Correct.
All right.
That is right. So cool. All right. So here's what we're going to do then. So today we're going to talk about lead generation and how I generally like to start this portion of the class is I like to start by showing you this chart or graph, I don't know what you want to call it. You've seen me draw this a few times this week already, but you're going to see it broken down a little bit differently than how I've done it so far. And it's going to look like this. So this is how I like to start today, is to talk about, okay, in fact, let me say it this way. 13 out of 14 people who start into real estate will be gone within 2 years. And the reason for that is because, and we talked about this already a little bit, but in real estate school, they didn't teach you how to sell real estate. They taught you how to go pass the test. And so as a result of that, what happens is you get your license, you come to work, and then you're like, okay, now what do I do? And because you are an independent contractor, we don't tell you, okay, be here at 8 o'clock and stay here till 5, and then you can go home, and we're going to give you time off and all that kind of stuff. So because of that, you're your own boss. You get to run your own business. But the problem is that because in real estate school you don't really get taught how to go do the business, what happens then is the first phase that people go through is what we call the activities phase. So we're going to go through, there's 4 phases of this. I'm not really going to spend any time on this 4th phase today, but I'll at least make you aware of it. So in fact, let me just give you what the phases are, because if I don't, I will forget to tell you the last one. So second is the contacts phase. Next is then the appointments phase. And then the last is the transactions phase. Okay? Now, what happens though is, and think of this red line down here as being your income, okay? So what happens is this, is you get your real estate license, you come into real estate, you plug in, we get you set up on all the systems, you come to some of the classes, and then we say, okay, good luck, go sell some real estate. And what happens is, in the activities phase is, I need to learn how to use the MLS. I need to learn how to do a CMA. I need to learn how to get all the paperwork. I need to learn, it's all about getting ready to get ready. So that's probably the best way to identify this activities phase. The activities phase is getting ready to get ready. And unlike a lot of sales jobs where like they give you a quota and all that kind of stuff, because you're your own boss, we don't really do that. We want to help and we want to support you, but at the end of the day, you don't have somebody calling you saying, hey, how many contacts did you make this week? And how many appointments did you set? How many appointments did you go on? How many contracts did you write? And probably it would be good if we did that, although there's been lawsuits to real estate companies from people who said, I thought I was an employee. I didn't realize I was a 1099 contractor. Mostly in California this happens. And then they sue for overtime and all that kind of stuff. So, but because of that, what happens is agents get stuck in this getting ready to get ready so that when I'm ready, I'll actually be ready and I'll know what to do. And in fact, I had an agent recently come in and meet with me in my office, and she told me, well, I can't do anything until I know everything. And I was like, then you're not going to make it in the business. Now, she didn't say it exactly that way, and I didn't answer exactly that way. But that's what the message that was communicated on both ends was, until I know exactly what I'm doing, I can't do anything. And I was like, then you won't do anything in this business, because that's not the way it works. You have to somewhat be taking a few steps a little bit when you feel like you're scared or in the dark. But what happens then, the reason 13 out of 14 fail is agents get stuck in this activities phase. They get stuck there of like, well, I don't want to go talk to somebody because I don't know what they'll say. And in fact, for me, I will tell you, for me as a new agent, I remember going to my manager and saying, okay, tell me what to do, and then I'll go do it. And he told me what to do, and I would go do it. My fear, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but my fear as a new agent was, I wasn't worried if somebody was going to yell at me or slam the door. Like, I didn't care about that. And I shouldn't say I didn't care, but I wasn't as afraid of that. I was afraid somebody was going to say yes. That's what I was afraid of. Somebody was going to say, yes, I want to sell my house, or yes, I want to buy a house. And then I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I don't know if you guys can relate to that. But that's how we get stuck in this activity space. So now, with that, let me go to the next piece of this. So I got my license. And in fact, let me even back up from there. So my wife and I had been married for a few years, and somehow we found out about a house that was kind of in our neighborhood. It was just out of the neighborhood, but in that area. Somehow we found out about this house, and I really don't even know how this all came about. We somehow got it connected with an agent who went and showed us this HUD home, which everybody knows what a HUD, anybody not know what a HUD home is? Okay, so I'll explain. So a HUD home is a home that's been foreclosed on, but then it was an FHA loan. So then the Housing and Urban Development, for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for the government, takes over that house. So they then are going to turn around and sell this house now. So it's a bank owned, is what you'll hear them called, REOs, HUD homes, bank owned, all of those things, kind of the same thing. So but it's because it's owned by Housing and Urban Development. So somehow we had found out about this HUD home, and sometimes they're really good deals, not always, but sometimes they're really good deals, and this one really was a good deal. And so somehow we got connected with this agent, and my wife and I went and looked at the house. We wrote an offer on the house, but on those HUDs, especially if it's a good deal, the way they do it is they put it out for like, okay, the home's available for the next 10 days. At the end of 10 days, we're going to look at all the offers that we've gotten. And whoever gives us the best offer, we'll go with that one. So we had made an offer. We weren't one of the best offers because we could only afford so much money. So we had offered what we could qualify for, which ironically, the house price was $50,000. Like, and we were like, oh, I don't know if we can afford that, which is kind of funny now. But so we had gone and looked at it, and I did the math on it. And I was like, $50,000 and 3%. I was like, this agent is going to make $1,500. I was like, holy cow. Like, I want to go do that for a living, because if I could make $1,500, how hard is this? It's not hard. And so I asked the agent, how do I go about getting my real estate license? And she told me, here's a real estate school, go sign up. And I took the paper, put it on the wall or something in my house for a while, and had a frustrating day at work one day, came home and said to my wife, I think I want to become a real estate agent. So I have an uncle that's a builder, and I called him and I said, okay,
tell me about real estate. Like I'm thinking I want to do it, and how much money can I make? And he said, well, I have 4 agents that sit my model homes. Now keep in mind, I love the idea of $1,500 from a closing. And he said, 2 of the agents that sit my model homes, I paid $60,000. The other 2, I paid $100,000. And I was like, wow, like I was making 30 at the bank that I was working at. So I was like, okay, I am interested. I'm going to real estate school. So I sign up, I go to real estate school, I get my license, I call up my uncle because I'm like, I want to go make at least $60,000. So I call up my uncle, hey, got my license, can I come and work for you at one of your model homes? And he said, no, because I've got 4 agents, and if we add a 5th, then all that money has to get split 5 ways instead of 4, so they won't like that. So if one of them quits, you could come and do it. Now, I'm so grateful that it didn't work out, because I think I would have hated sitting in a model home. But so I said, okay, well, what should I do? And he said, okay, you got 2 choices. You can go to a company that's going to give you training, or you can go to a company that's going to give you a high split. So I said, well, which should I do? And he said, call your cousin, his son. He said, call your cousin and ask him. So I call up my cousin, and his name's Gordon. I called up and I said, hey, Gordon, which, by the way, he was an appraiser at that time, my cousin. So I called him up and said, talk to your dad. Your dad said I should call you. What should I do? Company to get trained or a high split? And my cousin said, yeah, those are the 2 options. You either go somewhere and you get trained and you get a low split, or you go somewhere and get a high split but you don't get any training. And I said, well, what would you do? And he said, well, I chose high split, no training, and I'm now an appraiser. So if I had it to do over again, go get training. So I said, okay. So I called my uncle back. Okay, he said go with the training. So where should I go? My uncle tells me this guy, he's like, call him. He said, I used to be in business with him, and his agents seemed to like him, so you should call and go talk to him. So I go talk to this agent, or this broker. After I met with him, I get started. We sit down and he says, all right, what's your goal? How much money do you want to make in real estate? And I think I told you guys this already. I wanted to make $100,000. And if you remember, he said, okay, well, the average commission is $2,000, so you're gonna have to sell 50 homes a year. Oops, that says 80, it looks like it's supposed to be a 5. 50 homes a year. And I said, okay, is that possible? And he said, oh yeah, I got an agent here that started just about a year ago. And he said, he made $90,000 his first year in real estate. And I was like, whoa, like that's 3 times what I was making at the bank, almost. So I was like, I'll do it. So I said, tell me what to do. And then he told me what I told you guys yesterday, this, out of 100 people you talk to, you'll get 10 leads, will turn into 1 appointment. I explained the fallacy of that. But then he said this too. He said, however many people you talk to is how many deals you'll do in a year. So if you want to do 50 deals in a year, you got to go talk to 50 people every day. Great, I will do that. So I go out and I start talking to 50 people every single day. Now, let me come back to this for a second. So the problem most agents have is they never get out of this activities phase. They get stuck there of not doing anything in terms of making contacts. So I didn't have that problem because I was just like, tell me what to do and I'll go do it. So he said, go talk to 50 people every day. Great, so I did. So I went and I started talking to 50 people every single day. Now, again, keep in mind this line here is how much money you make in real estate. So I started making 50 contacts every day. Now, fast forward, and I don't know how much of this I told you guys earlier in the week, but I believed that if I talked to 50 people every day, I would do 50 deals in a year. So I was doing that. And so I was doing, I told you, 250 contacts every week because I would go talk to 50 people every single day. I would do 25 in the morning. I'd go knock on doors until I got to 25. And then in the afternoon, I'd get on the phone and I'd make phone calls. Well, at the end of a little over a year of doing this, I had 17 closings. Well, if you do the math on that, at $2,000 per closing equals $34,000, which is basically what I was making at the bank. And so, like, yes, I had replaced my income, but I don't know about you guys. I did not come into real estate because I was like, I just want to make $34,000 a year. Like, I came into real estate because I wanted the freedom of my time. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do, wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to be able to do that in the time frame but make a lot more than that amount of money. So I've been licensed about a year and a half, and I go to a training, and at that training is where I learned this, okay? And so I had brought up, in fact, I told you guys, like, the more questions you will ask, the better training you're gonna get from me, and I believe that, and so I was at this training with this guy, and I raised my hand and I said, I'm frustrated, and he said, why? And I said, because I'm doing everything that people have told me to do in the business, and I'm not making $100,000 a year, and I came into this business because I wanted to make $100,000 a year, and he said, well, tell me what you're doing. And I told him, I said, I go out and door knock till I get 25 contacts. I do 25 in the afternoon till I get to 50. So I get 50 contacts every single day. And he said, oh, okay, I see what the problem is. And then he drew this on the board. And he said, here's your problem is and this actually goes to our first principle that we're going to talk about in terms of lead generation. And he said, the first problem is, what are you focusing on? Where's your focus? And I said, well, my focus is on making 50 contacts every single day. And he said, okay, that's great, but let me show you what the problem with that is. So this is your income, this line here, this red line is your income. And if you focus on contacts, you'll make some money. That's not really where you're gonna make money. Instead, you've gotta have a focus, and your focus needs to be, and here's what he told me, your focus needs to be set one new appointment every day. He said, the problem is, here's why. He said, you're focused on getting 50 contacts every day. So when you go out and knock on doors, what do you get? And I said, well, I get 50 contacts. Between knocking on doors and calling, I get 50 contacts. And he said, and then you go home at night and how do you feel? And I said, well, I mean, I feel good that I went and did what I said I would do, which was to make 50 contacts, but I don't feel good because, like, I feel like I should be making more money than this because I was told if you do 50 contacts, you'll get 50 transactions, but I'm not. And he said, okay, I'm gonna have you shift one thing. He said, you're stuck in this phase, and he said, which is good because most agents get stuck here and hardly ever get out of here into this context, so good, but you'll see what you do in terms of income there. He said, if you really wanna make the big money, you gotta move over to this phase, which is what I set up here, which is set one new appointment every day. He said, if you'll do that, and then here's what he told me. He asked, how much time are you spending prospecting? You know, at the time it was 4 to 5 hours. I said, I would spend 4 to 5 hours every day prospecting. He said, okay, you're gonna have, if you'll change this, here's what he told me. If you'll move from this phase to this phase, and he said, all you gotta do is change your focus. Change your focus from being, I'm making these calls to talk to people, to I'm making these calls to set an appointment. Now, let me pause in the story for a minute and show you what it looked like. Because this is what my door knocking looked like. This is exactly what I did. And I don't have a problem with it, but this is what I did. So, knock knock. Hey, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21 Everest. We listed your neighbor's home over on Birch and Pine. It's got 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, listed for $600,000. Who do you know that wants to move into the area?
Have 2 people maybe.
No, don't do that. That's not, because most of the time it's like, no, I don't know anybody.
I don't know anybody.
Don't know anybody? Okay. Well, have you thought about selling your house at all? When do you plan on moving?
Not yet, no.
No plans? Okay, so how long have you lived here?
About 10 years.
Okay, where did you move from?
California.
California to here, okay. So what brought you here?
The mountains.
The mountains, okay, cool. Well, so if you ever were to move, where would you go next?
Probably back to California.
Back to California. So when do you think that would be?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay, well, hey, if you ever think about it, here's my card, let me know. And then I would leave and I'd go, there's one. Then I'd go to the next door. Knock, knock, hi, my name's Russ, blah, 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 blah. Who do you know that wants to move in the area?
Nobody?
And when do you plan on moving?
Oh, never?
Never, okay. Well, if you were, blah, 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 if you were to move, where would you go next?
Maybe closer to my friends.
Closer to your friends, so when do you think that would be?
Maybe never.
Oh, maybe never, okay. And then I'd go, okay, so, well, here's my card, call me if you need anything. 2. And then I'd go to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and I'd just keep doing that until I got to 50, and then I'd go home and be like, okay, I feel great. So, he said, here's the thing, because my focus was on making a contact, if you answered the door and I could tell you, here's how I did it. If you answered the door and I said, hi, I'm Russ with Century 21 Everest, we've got your neighbor's home listed and wondering who you know that wants to move in the area. I don't know anybody and I don't even want to talk to you. I would go, sweet, there's one. I didn't care. Like, it didn't matter. To me, it didn't matter if I stood there and talked to you for a few minutes and you told me no, or you said, I hate realtors, and slammed the door. I'd be like, cool, there's two. And I just did that every day till I got to 50. And that's why I wasn't making any money. So he said this. He said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Is your first thing you've got to do is change your focus. The purpose of your prospecting is to set an appointment. And if you will focus on setting an appointment, here's what he told me. He said, your business will actually double in the next year. And you will prospect half as much. So he said, if you'll do what I'm asking you to do, you're going to spend, now remember, I was spending 4 to 5 hours a day talking to people. He said, in 2 to 2.5 hours a day, you'll accomplish more, twice as much as you're doing right now if all you do is change your focus. Change your focus on, I have to set an appointment. And if you'll have your focus be on setting an appointment every single day, you will double your income and work half as much. And I was like, sign me up. How do I do that? Tell me what to do. Because again, like I told you guys, I was the type that was like, just tell me what to do and I will go do it. And he said, okay, here's what it looks like. Is tomorrow, when you show up to the office, you are not going home until you set an appointment. And I was like, okay. And he's like, now, will you commit to doing that? And I said, yeah, sure. Now, let me back up, because this whole training that I was in was all about making and keeping commitments. And so what the whole class was about was making and keeping these commitments. So he said, okay, you're going to commit to that. And I said, yes. And he said, okay, let me just make sure that you really understand what I'm asking you. It's like, you will not go home until you set an appointment. And I was like, yeah. And he said, let me, don't get mad, but let me just make sure that, you really understand. And I'm like, okay. So you're going to go home tonight and you're going to tell your wife, I'm not coming home tomorrow if I don't set an appointment. And I was like, oh, I really can't go home. And he's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like, you can't leave and go home until you've set an appointment. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to do that. And he said, but hold on. I promise you, if you will focus and commit to it, to setting that appointment, it'll happen. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So I go home, I tell my wife, okay, this training I was in, it's been really good, and the guy had me commit to, tomorrow I can't come home until I've set an appointment. Now, my wife knew I was doing 50 contacts every single day, and she also knew that I was only turning into a handful of transactions. This isn't bad, by the way, but it's not where I wanted to be. And she was like, that's not what, I'm not sure this works, and whatever. And she was like, that's fine, but remember, we have to go do blah, blah, blah. I don't know what we had to do, but something at 6 o'clock. And so she's like, so you have to be home by 6. And I was like, okay. So now let me pause for a minute and ask you guys, if I had you commit to that, if I had you commit to, you cannot go home tomorrow until you've set an appointment, what time would you show up tomorrow to the office?
7:30.
7:30. I was gonna say, sometimes people go, I just wouldn't go to the office, and that way I just wouldn't leave my house, and then it doesn't matter, right? No. So okay, yeah, 7:30. Yeah, that's what I did too. So for me, prior to that, I had met a lady at the office by the name of Shirley. And Shirley and I would meet at the office every day at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, she and I would meet up, we would go in a conference room, and we would do some role play for about 30 minutes. So we would practice of okay, yesterday when I knocked on somebody's door, they said this. What would you say if somebody said that? And then we would talk about it, and then we'd be like, all right, let's role play it. So we would role play it. So she and I would sit and do role play for about 30 minutes. Then we would go get ready to go. We would meet at either her car or mine at 9:45, and we would drive out to whatever neighborhood we were going to knock on doors. We'd get out of the car, she would take one side of the street, I'd get on the other side of the street, we'd start knocking on doors and I would, you know, we would just stay in eyesight of each other so that like nothing could happen or whatever, I guess, you know, but yeah, for safety reasons. So we would just keep an eye on each other, but we were on different sides of the street knocking on the doors. And then once we both hit 25 contacts, we would leave and go back to the office. We'd go our separate ways for lunch. Then we would meet back up in the office, generally somewhere around 1 o'clock. We'd both jump on the phone and start making phone calls till we got our more contacts. So, oh, shoot, I was just gonna say, somebody was unmuted, but shoot. Okay, so the next day, instead of coming to the office at 9 o'clock, I'm going, like you said, at 7:30. And I decided, well, I'm gonna go get the way that we got the for sale by owners back then was we didn't have like the Red X, you didn't have, the way we did it was you would get the newspaper. So I'd leave my house, I'd go to the gas station, I'd find a newspaper stand, I'd buy a newspaper, drive to the office, open it up, find all the for sale by owners, circle them. Then I would jump on the computer, print out all the expired listings. I would go look up their phone numbers because we had a book that was about this thick that was in street order rather than alphabetical order. So you'd go find the street that the house was on and then it would give you the phone number. So I go through and find all those. Then at 8 o'clock, man, I'm like on the phone because technically you're not supposed to call before 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock, man, I'm on the phone. I'm calling. The other thing though is, let me back up too for a second. If I told you, and this may not apply to most of you guys, but if I told you you have to set an appointment tomorrow, who are the first people you would call to set an appointment? If like I told you your life depends on you setting an appointment tomorrow, who would you call?
SOI.
Okay. Who else?
For sale by owners.
For sale by owners, okay.
For sale by owners.
For sale by owners. For me, I called all my leads. The people, like, and I know you guys, that's, once I say that, you're gonna be like, oh yeah. Like all the people who I had in either on a sticky note or in a computer or whatever, I called all the people who had expressed an interest already and told me, yeah, we've thought about it, we might do it later. That's who I called first, is I jumped on all the people who had already told me they were gonna do something. So I start calling through to those people, and that's actually not true. I did call them for sale by owners and expireds first, but then when I didn't get anything from that, then I jumped on with the leads, and I was like, hey, when can we get together and talk more about real estate? And I set an appointment within 2 hours. So within 2 hours, I had set my appointment. Well, now Shirley, though, is ready to go door knocking at 9:45, and she says, let's go. Which she did not go to this training, by the way. I just went by myself. So I told her, oh, I'm not going door knocking now. Because let me tell you. The other thing he told me is your objective is to set the appointment. Once you've set the appointment, go home. You're done working for the day. Like you've accomplished what you needed to do. You don't have to sit around and feel bad or whatever. Just like, if you have stuff to do, do it. Meaning like if I had listings or buyer appointments, do them. But outside of that, go home. Just be done for the day. So I was like, okay. So by 10 o'clock, I've got my appointment. Well, I just then said to Shirley, I'm not going door knocking. And she's like, you're going to regret it. And I was like, maybe, but I promised I would do this. So my commitment is I had to set an appointment, and once I did, go home. Once I had all my work done. So I did whatever follow-up stuff I needed to do. Noon, I go walking in the door. My wife's like, what are you doing? Are you here for lunch or what? And I was like, no, I've set my appointment for the day. And she was like, yeah, I don't know about this whole thing that you're doing right now. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I mean, you were working till 5 or 6 every day and not really making any money. And now here you are at noon and you think you're going to make, I'm like, this is what the guy told me. Like, I'll make money if I do it. So I said, it's just for a week too. Because that was the thing, is I had to commit to doing that every day for a week. So every day for a week, I'd get up, I'd get there at 7:30 in the morning, and then 8 o'clock, man, I was on the phone because I was like, I have to set an appointment because I can't go home until I do. I set the appointment by noon every single day, for that week, every time. Now, let's come back to, prior to that, I was making 50 contacts, but I might get 1 or 2 appointments for the whole week. Like 2 would have been a really good week if I set 2 appointments. And now all of a sudden, within a week, I've set 5 appointments. So why? What changed? What happened? Yeah, biggest thing is my focus. But because of my focus changing to setting 1 appointment, let me show you when I did go door knock, let me show you what changed. So I gave you an example first of what it looked like that I did. And then, actually, just trying to decide if I want to do something else first here. Now I'll show you what changed. Yeah, so I don't know, I keep thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I do, but. So the second thing that has to happen for you to set appointments with people is you have to connect or build some rapport with them, okay? So, and in fact, I'm just gonna give you all of these and then I'll break it down. So that's how we'll do it. So second thing that has to happen is you gotta build connection and rapport with people. Then the third thing that has to happen is you've got to create value, or you could say it as make them curious, okay? You can think of it either way. I've either gotta create value or I've gotta create some curiosity in the people for them to want to talk to me. And then number 4 is you have to close. Now, I'll get into more detail on all this stuff in a minute. So, here's what happened then, is so I changed my focus to now I've got to set an appointment. So now watch this, watch what happens. So, only give me an appointment if like this I already have now. This I have this. But if you feel like I connected and I create value and then close, go ahead and set an appointment. But if you don't feel like I connected or create value, don't set an appointment. So if you don't see value, don't just roll over. Don't be a jerk, but just be like, make sure I create some connection and rapport and create value. And if I do, then set an appointment with me. If I don't, then don't set an appointment. Got it? Okay, so knock knock.
Oh,
Hi, my name is Russ. I'm with Century 21 Everest. We actually just listed your neighbor's home over here, the Jones. Do you know them?
yeah.
Oh, okay. So you know he's got a job transfer. He's got to move to Florida in the next couple of months.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah. So yeah, he's got this cool job that they're taking him to Florida. So anyway, they've got me helping them get their home sold, and it's got 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, listed for $500,000. I just was curious, like, do you know anybody that's thinking of moving into the area?
Not at the moment, no.
You know, okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to think about it. So let me ask you though, have you thought about selling at all?
Not at all.
No. Okay. So how long have you lived here?
About 5 years.
5 years, really?
Yeah.
You've been here 5 years. That's awesome. What brought you here?
The mountains and skiing.
Oh, okay, cool. So where did you move from?
I moved from back east.
Oh, from back east out to here
Yeah.
for the skiing. Yeah, we do have the greatest snow on earth.
Yeah.
Would you agree? From back east? Oh, yeah. So, well, that's awesome. Well, so let me ask you, like, if you ever were to move, where would you go next?
Probably back to Florida.
Back to Florida. Okay. And so when would that be?
I have no clue yet.
So probably not for a while. Okay, cool. Well, no worries. Well, hey, let me ask you real quick. So how are you using real estate to plan for your financial future?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So have you ever considered owning an investment property?
Never.
You haven't? Okay. How would you feel about like money just showing up to you every month?
I think that'd be cool.
You'd like that? Yeah, it's awesome. So one of the things that I do is help people get set up in that, where I can help them buy investment properties so that they can be in a position to where, yeah, I like to call it mailbox money, like they're just gonna mail you money every month. Or you could say Venmo money, maybe that's how I should start teaching this class. I call it Venmo money, like people are just gonna Venmo you, a couple $1,000s every month. Is that enticing at all?
Yeah, that sounds cool. How would I do that?
Yeah, so that's the very reason we should get together. So our afternoons or evenings better, that you and I can sit down and talk about it.
I'm kind of busy this week.
Busy this week? Okay, but next week, would an afternoon or an evening be better?
Probably after you.
Afternoon? Okay, and so would 2 or 3 be better on Wednesday?
Say 3.
3 o'clock on Wednesday. Perfect, we'll see you then. See, boom, I just set an appointment. Now, what did I do differently though, this time than what I did before?
Well, you persisted.
Okay, good. So one of the things is I was a little more persistent. Good.
Really personal?
Really personal, okay, good.
Really personal.
So when you say that, that's I built some connection and rapport, okay?
Created a lot of value,
How did I create value?
telling me about the investment opportunity.
Yeah, giving you that
Yeah.
investment opportunity, and then did I close? Yes, so here's the thing. This is where the magic of this is. When your focus is on making a contact, what happens is I go knock on somebody's door, hey, I'm Russ, blah, blah, blah. I don't care if you slam the door on me, because if you do, I still go, there's a contact, whoop. But if I know, hey, if I can set an appointment with this first door I knock on, I don't have to knock on any other doors. So now that gave me this, hey, I'm gonna ask a little more. Now, if he would have said, no, I don't really care, I've heard horror stories about investment properties, not interested, then we wanna be always prospecting on parallel tracks. So I wanna be looking for now business at the same time I'm looking for the future business, okay? So then what I would do, so this is where you'll now see the connection of the SOI we talked about yesterday. So here's what I would have done, is my primary objective is the now and to set an appointment. So think of it that way. Your whole purpose of prospecting is to set an appointment. But if I can't set an appointment, so my primary objective is set an appointment. But if I can't set an appointment, then I want to capture them as a future, or you could say as a lead, that I'm gonna want to capture to try to do business with another time. Said another way, think of it, and this one maybe is not as politically correct, I don't know, but think of it this way. When you're looking for the now business, you're being a hunter. When I'm looking for the future business, I'm being a farmer. What's the difference between a hunter and a farmer?
That it's today, farmer, whenever the crop is ready.
Okay, good, yeah. The hunter is out looking for the food to eat today versus the farmer is gonna nurture it. What else is the difference? The hunter gets a little bit, the farmer ends up with a whole bunch that they could share with other people.
Yeah.
So, think of it that way, is part of what I'm doing is when I'm prospecting, I initially want to be the hunter, meaning this is why I say not politically correct. I'm going out for the kill. Like I want to go kill something, and my idea of kill something is set an appointment with somebody. So I want to go set an appointment. But if I can't, then I want to capture somebody for later on. So what I would have done then is I knock on his door, he says, no, I hate investment properties, I would never want an investment property. Great. I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with about real estate, keep them updated on the market, stuff like that. Would it be okay if I added you to that list?
Sure.
Perfect. So, which I just realized on that call you heard me do this morning, I forgot to verify the guy's email address. So make sure you do that. So here's what I would have done, or should have done on that one. But with Jeremiah's, I'm gonna say, okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'll send you something in the mail once a month, and then I'm gonna just give you a call, maybe like once a quarter to check in with you. So what's the best email address? Then blah, 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 he'll tell me what's the best phone number, blah, 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 perfect. Well, and now I go on to the next. So the idea is, what I don't want to do, I have watched a lot of agents in this business come through the business where all they focus on is now. In fact, there is a trainer out there, he's changed a little bit. There's a real estate trainer out there that teaches that who cares about this? You got to make your car payment this month. Who cares about next month? And when I think about that, I say that's true, but if I could capture a lead, and like the one that Davis this morning, I captured a lead of somebody who signed a 2-year lease, but Davis is gonna do a deal with him in 2 years if you stay in touch. If you'll treat them the way we taught yesterday about the SOI, you'll do a deal with them and hopefully get referrals from him in the meantime. That's what we wanna be doing is, yes, my primary objective, my biggest thing I'm going for is I gotta set an appointment, because if I set the appointment, I don't have to make any more phone calls. That sounds better to me than making more phone calls. So, all right. So on this, let's come back to this. So how did I create the connection and rapport? Snow, okay, good. So here's how I would say it, and let's be more general, but you're right on. So the more.
A comment.
Yeah, so and even a little more general than that is I asked a question. So just think of it that way. The way you're gonna build rapport with people is you have to ask them a question. After you've asked them the question, then what you've gotta do, in fact, actually, let me do it to you this way. Watch this. So let's do another role play. You make up whatever, I don't care. So, but you guys, we're gonna do the twice. Give me the same answers twice. But I want you guys to pay attention to what I do, but then also want you to pay attention to how the two differences, how they make you feel, okay? So, knock. Oh. Hi, my name's Russ, I'm with Century 21 Everest. We just listed your neighbor's home on Birch and Pine, have blah, 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 bedrooms, blah, blah. Who do you know that would want to move in the area?
No one right now.
Well, how about you? When do you plan on moving?
I don't plan on moving anytime soon.
Well, where did you move from?
Back east.
What brought you here?
The snow.
So, if you ever were to move, where would you go next?
I'd probably go back to the beach.
When would that be?
I have no clue yet.
Okay, so that's one. Now I'm gonna ask the exact same things, only this time, after I ask the question, I'm going to repeat and affirm. So now, specifically with you, Jeremiah, but everybody pay attention to the difference, okay? So knock.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Russ, I'm with Century 21 Everest. We just listed your neighbor's home on Birch and Pine, blah, 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 blah. Who do you know that wants to move into the area?
No one.
Nobody? Really? Okay, well, hey, I appreciate you thinking about it. So let me ask you, when do you plan on moving?
Not anytime soon.
No plans to move. Okay, well, that's cool. So, hey, where did you move from? Or, no, sorry, let me back. How long have you lived at this address?
A couple years.
For a couple of years? Really? That's awesome. Where did you move from?
From Florida.
From Florida to here? Oh, really? What brought you out here?
I like the mountains and the snow.
Just the mountains and the snow. Okay, cool. Well, hey, let me ask you, if you ever were to move again, where would you go next?
Probably back east.
Back east again. Okay, cool. So when do you think that would be?
Not anytime soon. I don't think.
No time soon. Okay, well, hey, I appreciate you thinking about it. You know, I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with, blah, blah, blah. So, what was the difference? First from you guys, then I'll come to you. Why'd you notice the difference?
I feel like you went straight to the point, maybe?
Which time?
The second time?
The second time you felt like more to the point. Okay,
Yeah.
any other thoughts?
You have to repeat it affirm, then you did.
Okay, so now let's come back to, first, before I even ask him, how did it feel to you guys listening to me when I repeated and affirmed versus the other?
It felt a lot warmer of a conversation the second time than the first time. The first time, it just felt like you were almost interrogating the person.
Perfect, I was hoping somebody would say that. That first time was more of an interrogation.
Okay, so you are comparing the which times?
Just a minute ago when I.
Okay, I was just comparing with the last
Oh,
time.
no.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I get it.
So the first time when I didn't repeat and affirm.
Yeah.
So so how did it feel to you?
The first time felt very straightforward. It was either a yes or no question, and then the second time you kind of made it a little bit more friendlier, asking, "Oh, really?" Or you kind of got like a reason out of it.
Yeah, so how does that make you feel?
Made me feel a little bit more personal,
Yeah,
like you actually cared.
like I
What you were
care.
asking, right?
So that's how you get this connection and rapport, is you have to repeat and affirm. And I will tell you, I would be willing to bet most of you are not doing that in your prospecting. You're immediately going to the next question. You're asking, so how long have you lived here? 10 years. Oh, where'd you move from? Like, you might even say, oh, really, or something, which is fine, but that repeating back lets them feel heard and lets them feel like you understand and that you care more about it.
Sounds less transactional.
Yes, less transactional. Good. So the other thing that you want to do as part of this is you want to add to that, in addition to that, is empathy. So when you are talking to them, you want to add in empathy. So if for example, he said to me, well, where really you want to make sure you're using empathy is if you're calling for sale by owners or expireds, you have to do that. So have any of you called expireds? You have? How did it go? Are they excited to talk to you?
No, they're not.
Okay, so be an expired now, okay? So
So I'm now gonna call on the phone instead of knock on the door. Whenever I role play over the phone, I don't wanna look at the person, which, by the way, here's why. I was thinking that the other day, I probably should explain to you this piece. UCLA did a study. In the study, they were studying communication, and here's what they found. Is 7% of communication is the words that we use. 38% of communication is the tone that we use, or the inflection, and 55% is the body language. So 55% of communication is body language. Now, so if you're knocking on somebody's door, you can use all of this. If you're on the phone, you only have the tone and the words. Now, let me show you what I mean by that. If I go home tonight and I walk in the door and I said to my wife, now notice I'm going to get the words correct, but if I walked in the door and I said to my wife, I love you, but I used the right word. Why is she going to be mad? Like, I used the right words, but notice, more important than the words is how you say the words.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you another example. Let's say that if I said this, I didn't say he stole the money. What's the message I'm communicating?
You're not guilty.
Yeah. Okay, how about this one? I didn't say he stole the money. Now-
So then you sound guilty.
I sound guilty, but what's the message when I say I didn't say he stole the money?
I implied it.
Yeah, I might have implied it. Okay. How about I didn't say he stole the money.
Maybe he borrowed it.
He might have borrowed it. How about I didn't say he stole the money.
He stole.
Maybe he stole some clothes.
He stole something, but it wasn't the money. So notice that the words that you put emphasis on change the whole meaning of the sentence. I'm saying the exact same words. So that's the idea of this is this is why we need to learn a script. Like, you need to learn a script because we need the words. Like, if I walked in and said to my wife, if I walked in and was like, I hate you. Like, that still doesn't work. Even I said it right, but the words weren't right. So the words are important. But more important than the words is you got to use the right tone. You got to emphasize the right things because otherwise you're not communicating it right. So when I role play, if I'm role playing, and I would recommend this for you guys too, if you're going to be making phone calls when you do a role play, don't look at each other. Well, at least if I'm being the prospect. But actually, when I'm doing it, I just won't look, whether I'm the agent or the prospect, I just don't look at them because I want to pay attention to how does it make me feel just listening to the words, not paying attention to the actual body language that they're using. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's do it. So because it's going to be an expired over the phone, I'm going to go this way where I can't see him. So
Hey, Russ, real quick, what are the percentages? You're at 38% on tone?
yeah, 7% words, 38% tone, 55% is body language.
Thanks.
So, in fact, let me give you the example of this. So, I was at a Tony Robbins event. When this piece really hit me the hardest was this. I was at a Tony Robbins event, and he had this other guy, and I'm going blank on his name right now, but it doesn't matter. This other guy that does a presentation comes out on the stage, and they announce him. They're like, welcome to this, Joseph McClendon. Welcome to the stage, Joseph McClendon. And everybody's like, woo! And he comes out on the stage, and everybody's clapping, woo! And he goes, all right, guys, stop. And everybody started cheering louder. And he's like, no, seriously, stop. Let's go. We got to get this thing going. Stop. And he kept going like this. And what did the crowd keep doing? We kept cheering. And he's like, no. Stop. Like, we got to get going. And the whole time, every time he would do this more with his body language, we were like, yeah. So notice, the body language means more than even that. So the other reason I bring that up is when you're on the phone, you don't have this part, like you're missing most of communication is the body language over the phone. So you've got to I like to say it as you got to overbake it. You got to when you're on the phone, overdo it with the enthusiasm because it gets watered down. Same thing. Like if I go back and watch the video of me presenting right now, like I feel like I've got pretty good energy that I'm giving to you guys, but if I go watch it on the video, I'm gonna be like, wow, it's just not the same. And especially if you only listened to me. If I went and only listened to this presentation, I'd be like, man, I gotta step it up on the energy. That's because without the body language. Okay, so here we go. So ring.
Hello.
Now, and be an expired, okay? So, all right, ring.
Hello.
Hey, this is Russ with Century 21 Everest. Is this Jeremiah?
Yeah, what's this about?
Hey, I just was calling because I noticed your home came up on the computer as an expired listing.
Yep, it's been a process.
Yeah, so I kind of sense in your voice. So now notice, here's what I'm trying to do. So I sense in your voice that you might be a little bit frustrated. You gotten a few phone calls today?
A lot of them.
Yeah, I bet you probably like starting at like 6:45, huh?
Yeah, I'm being bothered a lot.
Yeah, probably you walk out of your house and kick a bush, I'll bet you a realtor would run out.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, and next thing you know, they're probably flying over your house, dropping pamphlets down.
Yeah, it's
Like that's gotta feel like where, and you've gotta be thinking to yourself, like, where were all these people when my house was listed?
Yeah, it's really frustrating right now, actually.
Yeah, because did you get very many showings while the home was on the market?
Not a whole lot.
So man, so I would imagine today is really annoying then with all these stupid agents calling.
Yeah, there's been a lot for sure.
Yeah, so let me ask you, hey, if you had sold this home, where were you gonna go next?
I hadn't had a clue yet. Probably back closer to family.
So back closer to family, where's your family at?
They're on the West Coast.
Oh, on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Awesome, cool, what part?
They're in Oregon.
In Oregon, oh wow, love that place, that's awesome. Well, hey, let me ask you, did your agent ever sit down and explain to you why your house wasn't selling?
No, we just kind of had an idea of why.
He didn't explain it, really?
No, we didn't really sit down and talk much.
Wow, interesting. So was he one of the agents that kind of like, you felt like you just put it on the market and then just disappeared?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of movement on it.
Yeah, man, that's frustrating. You know, what we ought to do is sit down and I'll walk you through it, because I actually specialize in helping people understand why. So I'm now moving to this here. I actually specialize in helping people understand why their house didn't sell. So would an afternoon or an evening be better for you?
Honestly, I'm not really interested in meeting with any more realtors.
Yeah, not interested?
Not
And,
really.
and yeah, is that just because like you're sick of what they've done and how they've approached it?
Yeah, I didn't get sold in the time that I wanted to, so.
Okay, and so by not getting the home sold in that amount of time, that's gotta be pretty frustrating, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so what do you think the agent should have done that they didn't do?
probably could have given me a better timeline of when it would have gotten sold.
Gotcha, giving you a better timeline, yeah, that makes total sense. So, when would be a good time that we could sit down and I'll just walk you through, show you what I do, and I'll give you actually a good timeline that I think would be exciting for you of when you could get your home sold. So are afternoons or evenings better for you?
Probably the afternoon.
Afternoon, so, and would tomorrow or Saturday be better?
Let's plan on Saturday,
Saturday, and so 1 or 2?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, okay. So notice with empathy, here's what I'm saying on this. Anytime you feel like the person, whether you're at their door or on the phone, if they're getting mad at you, get mad with them. Be like, oh, that has to be so annoying. Like, and sometimes I'll even say, you're sick of agents? Yeah, I get it. I get to deal with those knuckleheads all day, every day. So I get why you're frustrated with agents. But the more that you can try to get into their mindset, the more you can express what they're feeling inside, the more connection and rapport you will build with them. The more you can say, and it didn't really work. Like there's no such thing as a perfect call, by the way. But generally, when I do you kick a bush and a realtor runs out, usually I get the person to laugh, and he still didn't even laugh. So I'm like, I probably threw that in too soon. I needed to ask a few more questions first. And then if I'd have said, I know it's probably got to feel like you kick a bush and a realtor runs out. Generally, that's when you can tell if you've got them or not, is because they'll be like, seriously, like it feels like that's what's going to happen. And then I'll throw in, I know, next thing you know, they're coming over your house, dropping down pamphlets of why they should list your house with them. And they're like, seriously, that is exactly what's going on. then I can go, okay, now let's move into creating value. Of, hey, let me sit down with you and help you figure out why it didn't sell. Okay, we good on that? So, the next piece of this then is we gotta create the value. The way we create value is you wanna do things that are gonna either make them curious or that they just see the value in it. So things like sound bites. So one of the things you wanna do is something like with that expired is I might say to that expired listing, hey, you know what? I actually have worked with a lot of people in the exact same scenario. I've specialized, was why I said it. I specialize in helping people who have had their home on the market and it didn't sell, of coming out and sitting down with them and showing them. So, and then a soundbite would be like saying, you know, I just recently had somebody that I went, now you need an actual story or you can borrow one that you could say, we had somebody, meaning the company. So I just say, hey, you know, I recently had somebody or we recently had somebody that in fact, this is the one that I love to use the best. And if you want to use this, you can use it as well. Which some of you guys might not do. Does everybody know who Larry King is? Anybody not know who Larry King is? Okay. So Larry King had a home down in St. George. And one of our agents down in St. George was working expired listings and came across this expired listing, looked it up, and the owner was Larry King. And he was like, this can't be like the real Larry King, can it? Like from TV and stuff. And so he was like, I don't know, doesn't matter. So he tried to get a hold of them, couldn't get a hold of them. So he mailed a letter. This is the nice thing about expireds, and I've gotten listings this way too. If you cannot get a hold of the people and like the house is empty or has a tenant or something, mail the letter to the address of the home. So I had one that it was in North Salt Lake. I mailed the letter and got a phone call. The guy had moved to Texas. He was a pilot, got transferred, worked for Delta, got transferred to Texas. And I mailed the letter of, hey, your home's expired and blah, blah. He called me up. I didn't even know it is. He's like, this is how crappy my agent is. I didn't even know it had expired. When did it expire? And I was like, oh, it was a few days ago. And he's like, are you kidding me? I can't believe that. And I was like, well, it's not on the market. And he was like, I got to get it sold. Great, I'm your answer. We got it sold. So this agent mails, though, to Larry King the address there. Gets a phone call, and it's Larry King's assistant. Says, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm Larry King's assistant. He's like, is this like the Larry King, that like news anchor guy? Yep, that's him. And he's like, oh, all right, well, hey, I just had some ideas of why I think his house didn't sell, and I just wanted to see if I could meet with him and go through it. And the person said, well, hey, why don't you just tell me and I'll go sit down with him and show him. And he said, okay, when I look at the MLS, and I don't remember what it was, but the agent looked at the MLS and was like, this is wrong on the MLS. It's actually that. And the assistant said, are you serious? And he said, yeah. So he's, all right, let me talk to Larry and I'll get back to you. Comes back, says, hey, he appreciates that you had that much attention to detail, wants to list the house with you. And the agent said, not only that, I think we could sell it for more money, which generally is not the case on an expired. But he said, because of this error, and I wish I could remember what the error was, but because of that error, we need to change that and it'll probably sell for more money. So he listed it for more money, sold it, got a higher price, got Larry King to write a letter endorsing him of like, how awesome would that be to be able to be like, Larry King, the guy on the news that everybody trusts me. Like that's Gephardt approved on steroids. So anyway, that would be a soundbite, is saying to somebody, hey, you know, I specialize in helping people get homes, their home sold. What I want to do is come and sit down with you and analyze everything that took place. What it looks like on the MLS, how many showings you got, how many offers. I want to go through all of that and figure out where the problem is. So let me give you and then I would say we recently had that happen, which Larry King's dead by now. He is dead now, by the way, in case you didn't know, but you could say we had that. In fact, from Larry King, the guy that was always, interviewing people on TV, we found a problem with his house, we were able to turn around and sell it for more money. So I'm not saying I could for sure sell your house for more money, but when would be a good time we could sit down and talk about that? See, that's how I'm creating value. You want to create some sound bites of, hey, I had somebody in the same situation as you, here's what I did to help them. Does that make sense? Okay.
So Rose, question for you, quick question.
Yes.
I've been looking and calling at a house that is a FISBO, is empty, looks like nobody's there for a while. Is that when the letter thing will coming to hand?
Yep, that's what I would do, Luz. I would write a letter, and noticed your home is for sale by owner, and I've been trying to come by and talk and haven't been able to get a hold. Well, does it have like a phone number on the sign though?
It has a what?
Does it have a phone number on the sign, or how do you know it's for sale by?
Yes, it does, it does.
Oh, well, have you called the phone number?
Uh-huh, but they don't answer.
Oh, they don't answer. Okay, perfect. So then I would send them the letter of saying, hey, I've got some ideas for you about why your home might not be selling. Give me a call.
You're not answering the phone.
Yeah, that's what my idea would be is you got to answer the phone. So yeah, absolutely. In that scenario for sure, Luz, I would write them a letter. Let them know. Let them know I live just down the street, and whatever it is. Wanted to talk to you about getting your home sold.
Because the idea of the letter is, even though the house is vacant, they should forward their mails to some address. Is that
Correct.
what the idea is?
That's the idea. Is it
Okay.
they probably have their mail forwarded. So
Okay.
you got it. Okay. Next piece of this is then we have to close. So on these calls, the next thing we have to do is close. And there are only 5 ways in the English language that you can close. And it's what time, which time, how soon, when, and where. Okay? So if you are not saying one of those 5 things, you're not closing. If you say to somebody, hey, I would sure love to get together with you and talk more about it, that's not a close. Another one that people use that I hear people say is, can we get together? Can we get together is not asking for an appointment. It's well, you guys tell me, what does can we get together, what is that asking? Yeah, if it's possible. It's asking, is it possible? Because can we get together is about possibilities. And is it possible?
Yeah.
The only question is, do they see value, right? So how about, is there a time we could get together?
Oh.
You're asking if it exists. Is there a time? Does it exist? And what's the answer? Yes. It's only if they see value or if they're curious, right? So anytime, this one's the worst one. This one's the one that people do that is the worst.
Why don't we?
What?
Why don't we?
Yeah, why don't we get together? Now, here's why that one doesn't work. Watch what happens. So why don't you give me some money?
Because I don't want to.
Okay. Why don't you give me some money?
Why would I?
Why would you? Because I'm nice. Okay, Alicia, why don't you give me some money?
Because I don't know.
Okay, Davis, why don't you give me some money? Okay, Melinda, why don't you give me some money?
Because, no, just no.
Just no. Okay. KK,
I don't got money.
you don't have it. Okay.
Nothing to give you.
How much money did I just get?
Nothing.
So what did I get though? When I said, why don't you give me some money, what did you tell me?
Why not?
We got reasons as to why.
Yeah, I got all the reasons not. Guess what happens if you say to somebody, why don't we get together and talk more about you buying a house? Because I don't want to. The same answers. So don't ever ask. If you ever are saying that, get it out. Because why don't we get together tells you, you're saying to them, just give me a reason why, and then I'll leave you alone. So don't ask that, okay? So the only ways you can ask for an appointment, what time, which time, how soon, when, or where. If you're saying anything else other than that, change it. Now, I had one time that I was in a training doing this class. I taught that, and an agent raised her hand. And she said, I have been saying, can we get together? And I have plenty of appointments. And I was like, okay. Like, If you wanna challenge me on it, and which, by the way, I'm always okay if you guys wanna challenge. As I said, okay, and here was my answer to her. If you are getting the amount of business that you want, then you don't have to change. Don't change at all. If what you're doing is getting you the business you want, don't listen to anything I'm saying. Like, you don't have to change. If you're happy with where your business is, don't change a thing. And she was like, okay. And I was like, okay, that's great. Like, but if it's not, the idea of all of this is if it's not working for you, figuring out which of these things is not working and then making those changes so that you can get it. Because here's what I will tell you. 100% of the time, if you focus on setting an appointment, you get a connection and rapport with the person and you create value and then do this, you will set an appointment. 100% of the time. Now, sometimes people might challenge me on that and be like, yeah, but what if the people don't want to move? Well, I still would say if I created enough value like I did for Jeremiah, they're going to go, yeah, I'll meet with you to find out more about that. Now, you might not want to go on every appointment, so I want to make sure I'm clear on that. Of like, we're not talking about is it worth your time to go? Because let's go back to that scenario with Jeremiah, because here's what I would have done. So yes, I set an appointment with him, and actually, let me even point this out. Notice the steepness of this line in here. This is the hardest part of the whole thing, is setting an appointment. But that's where you really start to make money. But notice, it's not go on one appointment, it's not keep one appointment, it's set one new appointment every day. So I set an appointment with him, but I will tell you, I may or may not have gone on the appointment. Just because I said it doesn't mean I'm going. And what I mean by that is, especially if I'm talking to them about investment properties, so what I would have done on the investment property when I set the appointment was I would have said, whenever our appointment was, so let's just say it was tomorrow, I'm going to say, hey, I am going to have my lender give you a call, because what we want to do first is just find out where you're at financially in terms of your credit, your income, and all that kind of stuff to make sure that it works. Which, by the way, there is a loan that Cross Country Mortgage can do that's called the DSCR, which basically it's an investment property loan that as long as the person has good credit, the property just has to qualify. So they have to have good credit. So I would have just said, I'm going to have him give you a call. We just need to make sure on your credit and that kind of stuff. And then once you've talked to him, then we'll get together. So I would only go meet with him after I had him talk to someone at Cross Country Mortgage. For me, probably, yeah, for Cross Country Mortgage. Then what I would have done is if they called me and said, yeah, his credit score's bad, then I'm not going. If they called and said, yeah, credit score's good, he's got some money for a down payment, looks good, then I'm going on that appointment. So keep in mind that when I'm talking about setting appointments, I'm not talking about going on them. I might not go on it, but I'm just going to set it. And then after that, I'll figure out if I'm going to go or not. Does that make sense? Okay. But so back to this. 100% of the time, if you don't set an appointment, if you are on a phone call and you do not set an appointment, it is because you missed one of these things. Including the focus on setting an appointment. Because here's what, I have had agents tell me, oh, I had a great conversation, everything was so good, and then I totally forgot to ask for an appointment. And I can never understand that, because I'm like, that's the whole point. Like, how do you forget? I just got so carried away in the conversation that I was like, all right, I'll talk to you later. And I'm like, no, like, you gotta set an appointment. But in every time, you should don't do a lot of analysis, but after every phone call, you should stop and go, okay, where did I drop the ball on this? Because, well, in fact, let's do this. Let me say it this way. Anytime somebody hangs up on you, are they hanging up on you because you didn't close? No. You're never going to have somebody hang up on you. They're not going to be like, oh, we had a great conversation, I see the value, but you didn't ask me, so click.
No.
Never going to happen. But will they hang up on you because you didn't create some value? Maybe. But generally, almost always, if you get hung up on, there was no connection or rapport. Now, I am all in agreement that you're not going to get connection and rapport with some people before they hang up. Like, meaning I might say, hey, my name's Russ, I'm with Century 21 Everest. Click. Well, like, I would say the reason I didn't get an appointment on that one is I had no report. Granted, did they not give me time for report? Maybe, but maybe I still needed to do something differently. But I am just telling you, 100% of the time, if you did not set an appointment, it is because you didn't do one of these things. Every single phone call. But if you'll do these things, you're gonna set appointments. Now again, like I said, you might find out, like the guy today that we talked to that had signed a 2-year lease, like I probably could have still set an appointment with him. I probably still even should have, just for the example to show, but the problem is, he's not gonna buy for 2 years. Cause I even said to him, if we could figure out a way to get you out of the lease, if we found a good deal for you and we could get you out of the lease, would you do it? And he's like, no, I wanna wait. Okay, then at that one, like, I'm stopping and move, I immediately went to turn from the hunter to the farmer. Does that make sense? Okay, what questions do you have on this so far?
What about if someone's selling a piece of land that's for sale by owner? Is that any different of how you would approach it?
Yes, I would be a little different on approaching it, because typically with the house, if there's a house, I have an excuse to, hey, leave me out of the house so that I can see the house and talk to you about what I do. On land, you can't be like, hey, I wanna come see it. They'll be like, great, go drive by.
Yeah.
So the only difference though would be you still are gonna create value of why you should get together. And probably I would just say, I wanna get together so that I can walk you through the process and show you some comparables and properties that I've found. Okay.
I've done that with land, but I've driven past it, sometimes I've even stopped all over it and gone back and said, hey, I have a question, where's the back, can you show me where the back boundary is? Can you tell me a
Yeah, you
little
could
bit
do
about
that.
this little creek that goes through something? Or you can at least, when you're calling and you're value, like, hey, I just drove by your piece of land, it's an awesome little piece, even, what can you tell me about it? And kind of get them to at least talk to you a little about that way. But as long as you acknowledge who you are when you're calling and let
Yeah.
them know you're I'm sorry, wrong word. You're an agent and you're trying to get them to list with you and stuff.
Which I love that. So yeah, if you could find something about the property that you could say, hey, I wanna meet you out there so you could show me, so, if it makes sense, but some of them, it might not make sense. Like they might say, yeah, it's the creek, the back boundary is the creek, so there you go, I don't need to meet you here, but yeah, just find something that you could say, I wanna meet you out there and talk about it or whatever. Cool. Okay, you look like maybe you were gonna ask a question, Davis.
Oh, I just was gonna say that, like, earlier when you were talking about some people just don't give you time. When I was calling, actually one person did answer, and I got on the second question of asking if they were browsing, and it was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so some of that too could be tied back to, and I don't know without being there to hear it, but sometimes it could be if they feel like, actually, here's what I'm gonna show you. Here's what, this could be why. I mean, I got a video to show you guys.
You must look at this and I'm like, oh god.
Okay, yeah, okay, it's like, what am I doing?
I need to be.
No, I gotta, hang on, I wasn't intending to do this, but as you said that, it reminded me of this video I gotta show you, but I gotta get connected to the Zoom on my computer. Which I love this video, so I'm glad you brought it up. See, this is another example, you ask a question, you're gonna get something.
We want the training.
I know, we gotta ask questions then.
Yesterday you said you were gonna give us bad training.
And it would have been better if you'd asked. All right, yeah, let me get the projector turned on here. Yeah, you missed this morning. I didn't even turn the camera on for Morning Ascent. People are like, hey, the camera's not on. I was like, yeah, turn yours on too. And Hammond has his on, so okay, so.
Jeremiah, I didn't know you were Gonzalez or something.
Oh, yeah.
But do you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
No way we were speaking English yesterday.
I'm sorry.
I know it's horrible to speak in English. What is up with that?
Well, with Alicia, the same thing. We were speaking English for days, and then I noticed that she spoke Spanish, and I was like, why? Why do they do that to me?
You spoke to me in Spanish right off the bat.
They made me speak in English.
Just start speaking to everyone in Spanish.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't speak to me in Spanish, so
Well, you don't speak Spanish.
how do you know? You don't speak to me in Spanish, so you don't know.
¿Cómo voy a saber que hablo español si nunca me hablaron español?
Look at his face.
Disculpe? Yeah, go. El mejor día de mi vida estoy. Okay, here we go. Me. Oh, hang on. Nope. This is probably, after all this, you guys are gonna be like, that was not worth the time and effort that you put into to showing us this video. Alright. But this, I think, explains, this still goes to two of the script, the tone, and the body language. Okay, here we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Russell, and I am a wilderness explorer in Tribe 54, Sweat Lodge 12. Are you in need of any assistance today, sir?
No.
I could help you cross the street.
No.
I could help you cross your yard.
No.
I could help you cross your porch.
No.
Well, I gotta help you cross something.
No, I'm doing fine.
Good afternoon. My name is Russell, and I am a wilderness explorer in Tribe 54.
Slow down.
Sweat Lodge 12.
Kid,
Are you in need of
thank
any
you, but I don't need any
assistance
help. Proceed.
Good afternoon.
Let's skip to the end.
Alright. Probably wasn't worth the whole setup of all that, right?
Yeah.
But actually, since I did that, I'm gonna show you a different one now, too.
I haven't seen that movie.
You what?
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Oh, I know. But so back to though, why they might hang up on you is if they feel like you're reading a script, like if they feel like you're a customer service person or whatever, like if they don't feel like you're talking to them, that's another reason they may hang up. But I didn't hear, I don't know what happened with it. But if you're, like if you hesitate, you're like, they'll be like, click, really fast.
Is this like how much
Me?
for this outfits like this?
Yeah, sometimes.
See, and I feel like that's the thing off of like the having the script up and like readily available. It's like good to know what to talk about or where to lead it. But I have noticed that because I've gotten like I the first person I talked to, I like didn't really. I used the script as a reference, but I didn't fully like just read line for line. And so on that last one, I was like, I essentially read line for line and hung up on it.
Yeah, so that's where it can be a problem, is if they feel like you're reading a script. So which it comes to that's why we role play and practice, is the more we can do it, the more you'll start to just sound natural and do it. Okay, so I'm going to show you another one here, which again I wasn't intending to do this. Now, this one is borderline of if like you guys are going to think it's appropriate or not, but that's okay. It's still, to me, it's a good example. So you guys tell me the difference between Russell on there doing the, hello, my name is Russell. I am part of Sweat Lodge, whatever, Wilderness Sweat Lodge, whatever. And this guy.
Actually, I'm gonna be quick like Nestle and beat it like Michael Jackson. That's why your neighbor said I remind him of Nicolas Cage, because I'm gone in 60 seconds. But watch this right here, Dad. Look, who does this the most on the window? The kids, the dogs, that are ugly black guys that eat fried chicken. Now you see these water spots? Look, they get wider than my elbows without lotion. Watch this, Dad, and I'm right here. Because Stevie Wonder says seeing is believing. And I got a disease called enthusiasm, so I'm gonna cut straight to the mustard. Watch this though. Don't laugh too hard, because the neighbor's gonna see this black kid scrubbing your window, okay? But look, wax on, wax off like Mr. Miyagi. Remember the Karate Kid? Now watch this, the airdrop, look, it puts a coating on your window. No water spots, no fingerprints, no streaks. That's why we can't sell it to criminals. Don't tell OJ or Tiger Woods, okay? High five, they've been loving this stuff. Now Dad, y'all, you and Mom, y'all would agree. Oh my God. You see this right here? Who did that? Who did that? Okay, watch this. Now, my mom said if it's darker than me and it don't pay the bills, it shouldn't be there, right? God bless you. Now look, this right here, we just upgraded like Beyonce. This is our new surfactant. Hold this and watch this, because this should be the main reason why you get the HBO special. You know what HBO means?
No.
You get to help a brother out. Yeah, I've been on the road like toilet paper. Half of your neighbors in the community, they said they just go get it because I'm funny, because this stuff spills itself. Look, you just go back and forth like an argument. Now, I ain't Jesus, but look how I split that like Moses did the Red Sea. Paint me green, call me a pickle. And look at this right here, look. Goes good with chicken. Don't drink it though, it'll give you the Hershey squirts. But look, that one bottle lasts longer than my last relationship. Y'all got water, right? Yeah. High five, you qualify to use it. Oh yeah, Mom. Now, this is my last demo and I'm out your hair quicker than your favorite shampoo. Y'all familiar with these right here, Sharpies?
Yeah.
Now watch this, even though I'm black, it ain't black magic, it just worked. Cause look, say you got this in the clothes or the carpets of the laundry. Would you agree that's hard to get out?
Probably.
Would you throw it out, shout it out, get OJ to stab it out, Mike Tyson to bite
Throw
it
it
out,
out.
Kobe Bryant to...
Oh, okay. You were done.
It was a multiple choice funny joke, because you know you can't put bleach on colors, right?
Sure.
Look at this. This safe on colors. That's why we couldn't sell it to Sammy Sosa. But look, you just spray the spray, right? Now, this right here takes out ink, blood, coffee stains, grass stains, Kool-Aid, lipstick, gum glue, candle wax. Would you say that's whiter than the Colgate Smile? Not. Oh my goodness, you see that?
So you use it on my teeth?
It ain't Jesus in the bottle. I use mine, they turn brown. No, I'm just kidding. But no, you just use it on for your house. What's the hardest thing to clean? Would it be carpet, the tile, barbecue grills, the shower doors, that oil and rust in the driveway that's blacker than my mother but not as beautiful, or that calcium right there?
Can I put this on YouTube?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you selling? What is it?
Personality.
Sure.
But this sells itself though. It's called Advantage, the Wonder Cleaner, best thing since cake and ice cream. Now, unlike Madonna, it's never been touched. So you only put 2 caps in a bottle. And most of your neighbors, they just get it because they like me. Y'all familiar with Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
See, I'm taking this course because this is how Jamie Foxx started off door to door. And he said 2 years of door to door sales.
That's good enough. Although there's more to it. If you want to go back and watch it, then
It's really funny.
okay, but there actually are a couple things that he says in there that are really, really relevant. What did he say? And the main reason I wanted you to see it, what did he say when he said, "What are you selling?"
Personality.
Yeah, did you catch that?
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I would say the same. Like, are you going to hang up on that guy? If he comes to your door, are you going to slam the door in his face?
No.
Probably not. Why?
It's
Yeah.
his personality.
Yeah, because of his personality, it was fun. Like, he created some connection and rapport. Now, don't go try to be, that's Kenny Brooks is his name. Don't go try to be Kenny Brooks, because if you're not Kenny Brooks, it's not going to work. Like, people are going to slam the door on you. But because of how his personality was, like that product that they were selling, I have twice bought that at my house. And both times my wife was like, "Why did you buy that?" And I'm like, "Because I like the guy." So notice how much connection and rapport plays into it. So the more connection and rapport you can get with people, the more likely they are. Like 2 times I have bought that product because the people showing up, it wasn't Kenny Brooks, but they were just like him. Like, I was laughing at their jokes that they were making and all the funny stuff they were doing. And more impressive, they did the same thing where he took that water spot, showed, like, so once he had some connection rapport, did he create value? Huge amount of value. And if we would have kept watching on there, later on, he looks at their doorknob and is like, "Close the door." Takes their doorknob that was brass, that looks old, squirts it with that stuff, scrubs it, all of a sudden it looks brand new. He's like, "Do you want 1 bottle or 2 of those?" Is all this, I don't remember if that's how he closed, but notice you gotta close. So that's the example. Like, I have twice bought that product and I still had the one in my house, but I'm like, the guy did such a good job on it that I'm going to buy. Now, I'm not saying you got to do that, but you do want to create this connection and rapport. The way we do it is asking the questions, repeating, and affirming. So, okay, what other questions?
When I did my last, this is when you go door to door, right? when you go door knocking.
Yeah.
What I noticed when I did my my last open house and I was passing the flyers, there are more and more no soliciting.
No soliciting.
And then we don't knock those doors when we see the sign, right?
It's up to you.
It's up to you because I didn't knock on those.
So yeah,
doors.
for me, I'm gonna erase this. You guys good with that?
Because I remember like 3 years ago they said that we shouldn't if
Well-
we see the sign. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who said that, but
Yeah. I
so
think it
here's
was-
for me. Here's how I decided.
Yeah.
For me, when I did a lot of door knocking. Like I was 2 years straight every day door knocking.
Yeah.
And for me, it was what mood was I in for the day. If I was in the mood of I don't care if somebody yells at me and I'm gonna have fun with it, I knocked on their doors. If I was in a like I don't even want to be out doing this mood right then, I was like I'm skipping it. So there's not a right answer. I would say like you'll have people that yell at you, and in fact, my father-in-law has a little thing up there that says something like that, some code, and you'll be fined if you knock on the door. Blah. My father-in-law would never. If you went and knocked on his door, even though he's got the no soliciting, so this is part of what I would say. Keep in mind, some of those people put it up there because they know they have a hard time saying no to people.
Yeah.
So, like my father-in-law is if you went and knocked on his door and you were like, hey, my name is Jeremiah, we listed a house and I'm just wondering who you know. Like he might at first be like, did you not see the no soliciting? And if you're like, well, I don't feel like I'm soliciting because I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm wondering if you know anybody that wants to move. He would be like, oh, okay. And he probably wouldn't even do that. He'd probably still sit and talk to you. And he would talk to you more than you would talk to him is what would end up happening.
Okay. So it's the way to approach it.
Yeah, and I would say it's up to you if you're like,
Yeah.
somebody wants to yell at me for that, like, and I usually, typically people say, can you not read? And I usually do what I said to you guys yesterday. I'm like, no, I went to Cypress High School. They never taught us to that. Like all of our books were picture books or something, and
Yeah.
so I just had fun with it. So it's up to you if you want to or not.
Okay.
Okay, so next piece of this. So we're gonna, let me kind of tell you where we're at. I usually like to stop every hour and a half for a break, which we're at an hour and a half right now. But are you guys good for 15 more minutes? And then we'll stop for lunch, start back at 1. So I'm gonna go to the next step of this in terms of lead generation. And then we're not gonna be able to finish it before, so we'll finish after lunch and then we'll do the needs analysis. So, but here's what I want to say, and I probably shouldn't have erased that just yet. But what ended up happening? So I did the set one appointment every single day for the week. After that week, I had set 5 appointments, and I was like, I can see that this will work. So what happened is I then that was my objective every day. And I had told my wife, every day when I walk in the door, I want you to ask me, did you set an appointment today? And if I haven't set an appointment, then you just tell me leave and don't come back till you do. So every day I would walk in the door and my wife would say, did you set an appointment? And I knew she would ask me that every day. So I did not go home until I had set an appointment. Now, what happened though, if you remember, I told you that the guy said if I would do that, what would happen is that I would prospect half as much but double my income. And I will tell you, a year from then, I was prospecting half as much and my income had doubled. The next year after that, I kept doing it again and I doubled my income again and still didn't prospect any more than I had been. And then the next year after that, I didn't quite double it, but I almost doubled it again. And it was as a result of just setting one new appointment every day, okay? So then that then led me to what we're going to talk about next. So the next piece of this. So what happened next is we're now going to talk about the buyer/seller cycle, okay? So what that led me to is figuring out this buyer and seller cycle. And this is tied to what we talked about here, which is that the now versus the future, okay? Prospecting on 2 parallel tracks and why that's important that you do it.
So here's what happened though, is I started getting a lot of business, and that was when I started working my sphere of influence too, because at that same training is where I learned working the sphere of influence the way that I taught you guys yesterday. Well, one day I'm walking through my neighborhood and I run into a guy that I had gone to high school with. So I didn't know he lived it wasn't in the exact neighborhood, but I was a couple streets away from my house and he was a couple streets away from his, and we ran into each other. And his name was Darren. And I was like, Darren. And he was like, Russ? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I just live like 2 streets that way. And I was like, oh, I live 2 streets that way. And so we get talking. And after that, though, once we knew we lived in the neighborhood, we started talking all the time. Like weekly, we'd talk to each other. Well, one day we're talking and he's like, seems like real estate's going really well for you. And I was like, oh yeah, it's doing really good. And he said, well, so when are you going to move? And I was like, what? I'm not moving. And he's like, oh, I just assumed like now that you're making good money that you would move. And I was like, no. At that point I had 1 kid. I'm like I have a 3-bedroom house. I've got 1 kid. And I remember I said to him, if real estate keeps going like it is, I'll just pay my house off in a couple of years. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I just assumed you might move. And I was like, no. And I went home and I told my wife, I was like, Darren asked me when we were going to move. And I was like, we're not going to move. Because most of my business, I had built my database, my SOI, of the people in that area. So, because they were all starter houses. And what was happening is people would get new jobs or whatever, and they would move, and I was helping them sell their house and buy somewhere else or whatever. So I was like, I would be dumb to move. I'm not moving. I have no plans to move. Now, here's the key though. When he asked me, so when are you going to move? And I said, never. What happened though is this. So picture this. So this is Redwood Road here. Actually, I'll do this. This is 5600 West. This is Redwood Road, okay? So my house was just off 6200 South and just off 5600 West. So there's a neighborhood right there is where my house was. So my office, though, was down here at 7800 South and Redwood Road. So I would drive down, and you got Bangerter Highway right here. So I would drive down here, and at that time, I was like, every time I would get stuck in traffic was right here at Bangerter. So I remember after he asked me, so when are you going to move? And I said, I'm never going to move. But I'm driving within a few days of that. I'm driving right here and I get stuck in this traffic. And it would happen every day on my way to the office or home. There was always traffic there that I would get stuck in. So I remember I thought to myself, if I ever do move, it will be east of Bangerter Highway. Now, here's what happened. So then this buyer and seller cycle, now I wish I would have known this is what was happening at the time. I didn't. But that buyer and seller cycle is broken down into 3 phases. The first phase is what we call percolation. Percolation is where it's happening under the surface. So it's happening under the surface. You're not fully aware that they're doing it. So the reason this is important is Darren asked me when I was going to move. I said, I'm never moving. I'd be stupid to move. And truly, at the time, I believed that. But fast forward a year, and I moved. I was moved. Within a year of him asking me that question, within a year, I moved. So why did I move? What happened? Well, part of what I think happened is I actually feel like he planted the seed. By him saying, so when are you going to move? I was like, I'm never going to move. Then I'm driving and I go, well, if I ever were to move, it would be east of Bangerter Highway. So then,
yeah, it actually happened to me.
Oh, okay.
To my client.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe you.
Okay, good, thank you. I at least have one believer. I'll pass around the offering plate soon. So, what happened though is I remember thinking, if I ever do move, it's gonna be east of Bangerter Highway. Well then, not long after that, I'm driving one day, and so when I would go to the office, sometimes I would get on Bangerter and go to 78, other times I'd go to Redwood and go down, and one day though, I'm driving over here, and there's this field, well, no, it's not on this side, right here, that I noticed they're building houses there. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I turn on the road that would take me down there and I drive through here, go to this other road back over here to work. So the next time I'm in the car with my wife and we're driving along and we go past that, I say to her, hey, did you notice they're building houses in this field right here? She's like, oh no, I didn't notice it. I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta see it. So I turn and I go down and I drive through and I'm like, look at this, they're gonna have a community park right there, and they got the swimming pool, basketball courts, all that kind of stuff for the community. She's like, oh, that's cool. We went on our way. Now, here's the point. During percolation, that's percolation. Percolation is just thinking about it. So again, if I wasn't an agent and one of you came and knocked on my door and you said to me, hey, when do you plan on moving? I would have said never. Now, part of why this stood out to me was, let me go back to me telling you I would go door knock. When Shirley and I would go door knock, we had a certain neighborhood that we liked to door knock. And so I spent at least a year knocking on doors in this neighborhood, but it's like a 1 mile square. So like it's a big area. Well, I would get frustrated because I would remember knocking on Jeremiah's door. And if you guys have done much door knocking, you've heard this before. But I would say, hey, so when do you plan on moving? Never. They're going to bury me under the tree in the front yard. And then I would always laugh like I had never heard it before, but everybody had told me they're going to bury me under the tree. And I'd be like, oh, that's funny. So, yet, within a few months of that, I'd be out there door knocking and I would see a for sale sign in his front yard. And I'd be like, I remember talking to that guy. That guy said he was never going to move. And now here his home's up for sale. That's where I got frustrated because I wasn't doing this. Which, by the way, that's why you want to do this. That's why you want to say to people, I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with. Now, once you hit 200, though, you only want to keep adding people if they're better than who you've already got. If they're not, then don't add them. But I started noticing, like, people that I would knock on their door, and I would remember the conversation when I would see the house and be like, they swore up and down they were never moving, and now there's a for sale sign in their front yard. So how does that happen? Well, what happens, and I'm not saying I planted the seed, I could have, I don't know. But what happens is somewhere along the way, people start to think about it. And that's what was happening to me, is I was driving here, I'm like, well, if I ever do move, it would be over here. Well, then I start noticing houses that are east of Bangerter Highway, and I really like them. And I'm like, this is a nice neighborhood. Well, I continued to drive to and from work, driving by there, watching what was going on. Now, if you would have knocked on my door, though, and said, when do you plan on moving? I still would have said, never. I'm never moving. I'm not planning on moving. I'm going to pay off my house. I'm never leaving. But keep in mind, a year later, I moved. So why? Well, because I went through this process. So eventually what happens is I'm driving through there, and they now have the model home built. And they've got a sign out, model home, open. So I noticed that. So the next time I'm in the car with my wife and we're driving by, I say, hey, they have a model home now open. They've got a model in there. Should we go check it out? She's like, yeah, if you want to. So we pull into the neighborhood and we stop and get out and I go walking in. Now, when I walked into the model home and the agent said, hey, thanks for coming in, what would you guess that I said? Because what does everybody say?
Just looking.
Yeah, just looking. I walked in, we're just looking. And actually my version of just looking was, here's my card, I'm a real estate agent. I just like to be familiar with the area. And so I'm just coming to check this out so that I can talk to clients about it. Now, why do people say I'm just looking? Why did I say I'm just here to check it out because I have clients and I want to be aware of what's in the market?
You want to be sold on anything?
I don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. Everybody likes to buy. Nobody likes to be sold. None of us. We all want to buy. We don't want to be sold. So we walk into it saying, we're just looking. So when you get people on an internet website, you get somebody in an open house, and they say to you, or they call you on your listing, and we're just curious. We're just a nosy neighbor. We aren't really that serious about it. I want you to remember this, which is why I'm teaching you all of this, okay? So we walk in, we go walk through the model home, we go upstairs and we look at it, because it was 2-story, we get upstairs and we look at it, and my wife says to me, man, I really like this place. And I'm like, yeah, I actually really do too. So we go down to where the agent is and I'm like, hey, do you have any lots that are in a cul-de-sac? And she's like, oh yeah, we've got one that's just on the other side of the park. Oh, okay. Well, do you have a book that has all the information about their different floor plans? Oh yeah, here you go. It's got let me write the prices in. Puts the prices in. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but the moment that happened, we moved from percolation. So percolation is happening on, think about like water percolating or coffee percolating. What's it doing? If coffee's percolating, what is it doing?
Bubbly.
Yeah, just kind of bubbling. So it's just happening under the surface is the key thing. Just remember it's going on under the surface. It's kind of the way I want you to think about it in terms of real estate. So they're thinking about it, but it's in their unconscious part of their brain that they're thinking about it where they're still saying, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just curious, okay? But the next phase of it is what we call information gathering. Information gathering is where they're now starting to gather some information on it. So for us, my wife and I didn't realize it at the time, but the moment, and in fact, think of it as, I've got it drawn up here as there's like this hard line. It's not like somebody knows, oh, I went from percolation to information gathering. It's kind of obscure. It just kind of slowly happens. So like this kind of bleeds over to here, this bleeds over to here. But it's not like all of a sudden they know. Like if you would have asked me that day walking into that model home, or before I walked into the model home, even before my wife and I left, if you would have asked me, are you guys going to go and get information about the floor plans that are available and all that, I'd have been like, oh no, we're not moving. Like we're staying here. We don't need more room. We could pay off our house. Like why would we move? We're not going to move. Yet we got there and after looking at it, then I was like, hey, so do you have floor plans and prices and stuff and the cul-de-sac lot and all that? Like I didn't realize I was doing this, but now I just moved from percolation to information gathering, which is why that you guys will hear me talk about, you've got to just get appointments with people and regardless of the reason. Like, I don't care if they're like, I'm never moving, that guy today even. Like, I really actually, the more I've thought about it, the more I blew it on not saying, great, let's get together and sit down and just talk about and put together a plan for 2 years from now. Because this process, if you really understand what I'm teaching you, this is so important. Because if you understand this, this is why I am so adamant always of get an appointment with people. Tell them we'll get you to be the most prepared person. Because they truly might believe they're never moving. This guy that said I'm 2 years out, it's possible that 6 months from now, something's changed and it's like, yeah, we got to get out. I hate our neighbors, something. I got to get out of here. So if you understand this, you stay in touch because they're going to go from percolation to information gathering. And then the final phase, which we'll stop now and we'll pick up here right after lunch. So after lunch, I'm going to finish off this buyer-seller cycle, talk about just a couple of other things on lead generation. But let's pause for now, just kind of with me saying this. This is most important, and I don't care what type of prospecting you're doing. It does not matter. You got to do this. These are the fundamentals of setting an appointment, and you can adapt them to whatever it is that you're doing. But so we'll come back. I'll finish off this. We won't take a whole lot more time on that, and then we're going to move into okay. Now I got an appointment. What do I do with it? Which, if you remember, Jason started on Tuesday. You wrote up here on the board, prospect, present, and close, and asked you guys which is most important. And then he said, I think the presenting is the most important. What we're going to do this afternoon is help you with the presentation so you're not afraid, hopefully, to go meet with somebody. So if you're newer. Okay, questions before we stop for lunch? Okay, so be back 1 o'clock, and we'll finish this off, and then we'll jump into the next piece of it.
Thanks, Russ.
You're welcome. Or I should say, since I love Chick-fil-A, my pleasure. I'm not gonna go eat Chick-fil-A today. I did yesterday.
Actually sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, right?
My son in California, he's in Aliso